Papa Noel, Papa Noel, Papa Noel, Papa Noel. Papa Noel, Papa Noel, Papa Noel, ring the bell, all children sing caroling, sing.
Although our story today is called Black Sunday, it actually takes us back to a sunny autumn day 3 or 4 years ago. Shirley said she'd like a trip out, and Slimbridge with its huge flocks of waders, hopefully harassed by the resident peregrines, seemed ideal. I thought we'd take in lunch there and make a day of it. So off we set to glorious Gloucestershire, and with little traffic on the roads were soon crossing the Gloucester Canal, heading down the long straight towards the reserve. An enjoyable morning followed, plenty of birds, a peregrine munching its mid-morning snack, before we enjoyed ours at midday. Things had gone a bit quiet on the reserve. We headed back to the car and talked about where else we might call in close by, or maybe on the way home. This was resolved quite easily, as the now annual Black Redstart had been performing well on the roofs of the buildings in Sharpness Docks, just a few miles down the A38. Did I know where to go, came the question. Well, I certainly knew Sharpness Docks. I'd seen my first grey phalarope whizzing around in the bottom of one of the huge basins there, and had seen Black Redstart there once or twice in recent years, so off we went. No problem in finding the docks, but we needed a specific gate, as the bird had been on the roof of the building right next to that gate. We drove around in front of the site checking on gate numbers, but were unable to find the correct one, so carried on to the very end of the complex, where a bridge crosses the canal and takes you to the buildings on the far side. This was no hardship. The day was still warm and bright, and we had no time constraints. It was all very pleasant and easy going. This was to change dramatically in the next few minutes. On reaching the bridge, we found it blocked by a large black saloon. A man, a woman and a teenage lad stopped by it. The man motioned for us to stop and not to attempt to go onto the bridge. As it was blocking the road completely and pointing my way, this wasn't really a problem, and I thought there might be a bridge at the other end, so we turned round. Shirley volunteered, I thought bravely, to go and ask if they'd be very long, while I turned the car into a lay-by just off the road. Within a few minutes she ran back to the car in some disarray. Shirley doesn't really do running, and I could see that she was extremely pale and very agitated. On entering the car, and before I could ask what was wrong, she said, "Drive, drive, get away from here, drive quickly, go." Trying to get reason just produced more of the same, so I drove to the dock entrance and pulled in to find out why she was in such a state. Apparently, on approaching the two adults and the teenage lad to see how long they'd be there, the man pulled out a cloth bag, roughly pulled it over the head of the teenager and shoved him into the car amidst a load of struggling and shouting. It was at this point that Shirley decided to take up running. Although this seems a bit of an odd scenario, there was no doubt that she believed that she'd witnessed some sort of kidnapping or mugging, and with due regard to the people of nearby Bristol, it does have an unsavoury reputation in parts, and the area that we were in is very, very out of the way. God knows what was going on, but we obviously didn't want to get any part of it. Problem was, by now, we couldn't ignore it either. I could just see the headlines: teenager found floating in Sharpness Docks, drugs baron believed to be involved. After that comes a visit to the police station to explain how we were witnesses but went home for tea. We decided to see if there was anyone working in any of the dock buildings and get them involved. Driving to the far end of the complex, we came across a red van proclaiming that its driver was a member of dockyard security. Result: flagging him down, I left it to Shirley to explain what she'd seen, Her agitated condition made it a lot easier for the man to take in what she was saying, and in the end he rather reluctantly, I thought, said he'd go and have a look. I turned the car and followed him at a distance, I might add. The car and the two adults were still on the bridge, and our new chum approached them, blocking the road in front of them with his van. After a lengthy conversation, he got back in the van, reversed off the bridge, and drove over to us, amazingly with a smile on his face. It appears that the adults were tutors from a nearby college. The teenager was a drama student, and between them they were filming some action project, and it was all very innocent, although the security man agreed they might have put up a notice warning people what was happening. By this time Shirley had regained some composure, but declined my offer to see whether we could still find the black red star, and indeed she's declined any further suggestions of any trips to Sharpnest Docks. So a bright day turned into a black day, but all was well in the end.